Okay, we're going live here on Substack. I'm here with Melissa Tierney. I'm Sandy Goe with Memorable Connections. And today we're having a little discussion on senior living, and she specializes on the options in Santa Barbara. But many of the things that we're going to discuss or mention actually can be applied wherever you are. But anyway, welcome, Melissa. And I'm excited. She's going to be hosting a lunch and learn here in Santa Barbara and covering really key areas for anyone who has an elderly loved one who you're planning for. Um, and anyway, so I'm just going to start going down to the list. It's going to be really brief. And then also, I had interviewed Melissa earlier. A couple months ago. And so anyway, you're welcome. I'll share the link so you can learn more about what she does and the tips that she has. So one of the 5 areas that are going to be addressed in her lunch and learn is senior living options made simple for downsizers. And that's something that we all deal with, I think, downsizing. So you want to share a little bit about
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. So, downsizing is one of those things where you don't know what you don't know until you're in the thick of it. And then when you're in the thick of it, you find yourself thinking, I really should have hired this out. Um, and it's a big, big job. And I have I found myself in that situation when I was downsizing my grandmother years ago. And a lot of people don't know that actually first of all, there's a book out there about how to move your senior loved one um, and still get along with your family. Um, I can send you the link for that. That was written by a friend of mine who is a senior move manager and affiliated with the National Association of Senior Move Managers. And what they do is they specialize in downsizing. They tend to find things that most families miss, and they will go through the process for you. And the last one that I was involved with, the last real estate transaction, the trustees called me. They were from out of state. They didn't know what to do. They got a call that they had to downsize their senior loved one and get her into memory care within the week. And so I said, call my local senior move manager. They did, and the senior move manager came in, and then by the time they were done downsizing the loved one and getting her into memory care, moving her into memory care, which is a job in and of itself and an art. Um, then when the trustees finally came to the home, the senior move manager had made piles, and the trustees just said yes or no to certain piles, took what they needed in terms of sensitive information, and then the senior move managers handled the rest. It was
Excellent.
very conflict free.
Mhm. Oh my gosh. And is that, I think one of the examples that you had shared where the family was out of state? They
Mhm.
weren't even where the property was.
The property was here in Santa Barbara, and yes, the trustees were out of state. They didn't know what to do.
Yes. And that's why it's so important to have a connection that is trustworthy. And, there's just so many snakes out there that want to take advantage of people in these kind of
Yeah, and
situations.
I've seen them. I've seen some fly-by-night companies come in and say they'll do everything, and a lot of things get missed.
Yeah, totally. And for those that don't know, Melissa is also a realtor.
I am a realtor by trade, and
Mhm.
this is what I do. I just have different conversations and a different approach to my real estate business, but ultimately I am a realtor. I'm a certified real estate planner. What my certification and the core of my business focuses on is working with the families to build that real estate plan and asking questions a lot of people either don't know to ask or they just haven't asked themselves. A lot of people come to me and they say, well, there's this family house and we don't know what to do with it. And then my question to them is, well, especially if they have a rental property, do you need the income from the rental property to sustain the life you desire? And, the answer can go one of two ways. And then a lot of times I say, well, if you can bless your kids while you're still alive, would you? And then we start looking, we loop in the trust attorney, we loop in the family CPA, the family financial planner, um, and we ask other questions like, well, if we could entertain the idea of a 1031 exchange, and sell an investment property and put it into something else, what would that look like? What would it look like if we maybe brought in the right financial planner and we added some income to the family trust? I mean, there are a lot of different routes that we can go, but the key thing here is that when you're reacting to a situation, you can't have these conversations. You can't have these
Exactly.
proactive planning conversations because you're reacting to something and there's pressure and there's deadlines and
And there's emotions.
emotions run high. And unfortunately, it's where a lot of conflict finds its way into
Mhm.
the situation. And so I like to have these conversations with the power team of four. I always say, who's managing family finances, who's filing the family taxes, who put the family trust together, and who's managing the family real estate. That should be me. I'd like it to be me, but that's where we come up with that plan, and we do it for the good and the well being of the beneficiaries.
Yeah, that is so valuable. So the second point that you will be including in your lunch and learn is real estate strategies that defer capital gains taxes. And that is
Yes.
huge because a big chunk could be taken by taxes.
Yeah, I just, closed escrow on a property with, for an investor client, and, essentially, they, have become what I call tired landlords. They were tired of, and this is a term that is coined in a lot of different, presentations, so I'm sorry to be so cliche, but it's called the terrible T's: tenants, trash, toilets, and taxes. Um, they had become tired landlords. They were tired of getting calls and all of the things that go into being a landlord. So what we did was we looped in the family financial planner, and um, together we came up with a plan to. I listed the investment property. It was a duplex in Pismo Beach area, because I cover, personally will cover Ventura up to Pismo in San Luis Obispo County. If I can't, for some reason, work on something as closely as I would like to, I have a lot of referral partners that I work with, and we partner. So geography is not an issue, but in this case, I took the listing and made a plan with the financial planner, a friend of mine, a very highly trusted colleague named Sam Sosa, and we put it on the market. And once we sold it, once we got into escrow, then he identified some potential viable, what are called DSTs, Delaware Statutory Trusts. They were identified by, or yeah, as like kind property by the IRS in 2008 as eligible for a 1031 exchange. And
Mm,
so these are kind of like annuities, kind of like a REIT, real estate investment trust. Um, and what they do is they're trusts that wrap around certain portfolios of properties, and they can include anything from Amazon warehouses to commercial shopping centers. I know that the new ESPN headquarters is held in a Delaware statutory trust. So um, the idea is that they are now closing on their Delaware statutory trust, and it's going to produce income for them So they are going to be receiving passive income at the same time, whereas before they were receiving rental income, but that also came with repairs and maintenance and other things. So, um, anyway, we sold it. I sold it, and now they're moving into their Delaware statutory trust. And I entertain that as part of the discussion for many reasons. One, because of the eligibility to do a 1031 exchange and defer capital gains taxes, which California has the highest capital gains taxes in the country. And then also because for legacy planning, if something were to happen, the the beneficiaries would be able to, get their share and also get a step up in basis. So there are a lot of discussions that happen there. But for legacy planning, it I've seen that it's a great strategy, and that's where a lot of us have those discussions about planning these things, and deferring capital gains taxes is huge because
Mhm.
if I don't
Oh,
have to, I don't want to have
especially
to
in
give the
California.
government any more of my money than I should. And so what I
Exactly.
say is, in this strategy, you fire the landlord and hire the strategist.
Excellent. Yes. And what I love when I, first, even met you, it was just your concierge services
Mhm,
and the attitude of teamwork, because I'm very much into that, and collaborations, and,
mhm,
working with everyone's expertise and sharing that,
mhm,
not being, it's serving. It's focusing on who you can serve, not on how you can get more for yourself. I mean, it was just we're that's why it's cream of the crop, connections here. So, anyway, yeah. And so, also the other things that you're including in your lunch and learn, and I think some of the you kind of mentioned, was, demystifying wills, trust, probate process,
mhm,
and estate planning made simple to create a lasting legacy. And the number one thing, and these are for education, we've got
mhm,
to one, little bit of information could pivot your whole
mhm,
pathway. And there's, again, when we hit this point of pivoting, crossroads is what we're going to call. I'm actually hosting another webinar with a collaboration of experts on that, these crossroads,
mhm,
because there are so many dishonest
mhm.
people out there trying to grab what you have, and so and during these times, just like you had mentioned, a sudden, change in a medical situation of a family member
Yep.
is instantaneous,
Mhm.
and if you don't make those connections ahead of time, if you don't educate yourself ahead of time, then you're very vulnerable in being taken advantage of, and it's a high cost to not only yourself, but your family and everyone that is connected. So, very, very much valuable. So do you wanna share a little bit about the, date and location of the Lunch and Learn, and then how people can connect with you if they can't make it?
Absolutely. I mean, connect with me, here on Substack, and certainly through you, Sandy. I think that's very valuable, making personal connections that way. I have my seminar that I do this on the regular on the third Thursday of every month here in Santa Barbara. And I can be reached certainly through my profile here, but RSVPs to the seminar are open, and so just reach out to me and I can send out the form to for people to register and get the details of time and location. But it is here, Santa Barbara, the third Thursday of every month, and so I would say just get the details from me that way. And then the other topics that we're going to be going through, like you said, demystifying wills, trusts, and the probate process, because a lot of people they hear things, or there's a lot of clickbait out there, and they think that they certain things are supposed to go a certain way. So I really make sure in this webinar or seminar to demystify the processes therein, and also making sure that people are not relying on actual myths, that they're clear on the differences between a will and a trust and how the probate process works, because that is pretty critical. And a lot of conversations that I have with probate attorneys and fiduciaries is around the probate process, because with my done for you concierge service, where I bring in the senior move manager and we take care of everything. So, in terms of probate sales, where there's a trust and there's multiple people involved, and most of them can't or won't pitch in, but I have the concierge service for that to be a non-issue.
Mhm.
Um, and the other thing that I talk about is the 21 critical responsibilities of trustees. So if anybody is a trustee that they know of, or they know a trustee, and they know they're going to have their hands full with a situation later on, this is a good thing to come to, just so that they know what their critical responsibilities are. I even have a downloadable PDF with a checkbox on it so that they can check off the boxes.
Perfect.
And
Those checklists.
yeah, so if nothing else, reach out to me, and I can send over that list.
Okay, excellent. Okay, thank you all for coming and joining us today. Please like, subscribe, and
All the
stay
things.
connected. Yes, and then we'll let you know when we have our next talk and next event. And if you're a specialist in any of this area, please reach out to me. Okay. All right.
Absolutely.
Everyone, have a great day. Bye.